Hey, thanks everyone for coming out. This is the Realm Roundtable, a podcast about all things Realm Royale. I'm your host, the Monty Mole. This is my co-host, Comp TV Lee.
Hello.
Hello, everybody. And then tonight we have special guest with us, idiotMouse. He is the global kill leader in Realm Royale. He was a participant in the 10K tournaments that Hi-Rez put on. He is also known as idiotMouse of House Targaryen. He's the rightful heir to the Iron Throne. He's the rightful king of the Andals and of the First Men. He's the protector of the Seven Kingdoms. He's the mother of dragons, the Khaleesi of the Great Grass Sea, the Unburnt, the breaker of chains. Did I miss anything?
Do you have this memorized?
Yeah. Did I miss anything?
A few weeks.
No.
You got it all.
I got it all? Okay, good. Anyway, we're just really glad you're here, dude. We're like a big... I don't know. I mean, Mouse and I, or not Mouse and I, Comp and I, at least, I can speak for myself. We're like, I'm fanboying a little bit just because we love your stream, love your content, and then obviously just learn a bunch from watching you play. So, do you want to start off just by telling us, I mean, obviously, like, a lot of people here are probably familiar with your stream and stuff, but do you want to talk a little bit about, like, how you got plugged into the game? Maybe even just how you got plugged into gaming in general, because you have experience with some other games at high levels as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The majority of my gaming quote-unquote career actually started with Counter-Strike Source back in the day. I was gifted Half-Life 2 for Christmas, I think, I was 13 or 14 years old. Came with Counter-Strike, and I played that at a high level online, CVOP, Cal Invite, won a few LANs, lost a few LANs. That's where pretty much the only bit of my shooting experience comes from. The rest of my gaming experience is in World of Warcraft, which kind of translates with the abilities to Realm Royale. And then I've always been a card game player, so Hearthstone was the game I played most recently before Realm Royale kind of came into my life.
Hearthstone?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, fun game, but I literally, long story short, I was in this tournament, and after this tournament, I was one game away from qualifying for this major tournament in Brazil, paid for trip and everything.
Wow.
And lost to this ridiculous RNG that this guy should have bought a lottery ticket. Like, he was so lucky. And so I uninstalled the game right away. And then my friend told me, he's like, well, you need a new game. I'm like, yeah. He's like, have you heard of Realm Royale? I'm like, no, what's that? He's like, it came out yesterday. You should check it out. And then here I am.
So that was like in Realm Royale came out in January of last year, correct?
June of this year.
Oh, is it June? Oh, I must be mistaken.
It's still
then.
Relatively new. Yeah.
Was it, that must have been pre-beta? I think pre-beta before that came out in Steam was like January, right?
I think they had like Paladin's Battleground.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Yeah, because I remember Baggins talking a little bit about it on his stream that he like had like an exclusive invite to the closed beta or whatever. And played it a little bit leading up to the actual Steam release. So, but that's cool because you just like Gentle kind of started out from like day one of, you know, getting it going. So like, were you immediately good at the game? Like, were you just like, did the CS:GO mechanics like immediately click? Where you just were like, oh, like, you know, this is
not really. I mean, to be honest, I don't think Counter-Strike translated all that well to the Battle Royale scene for me personally.
Yeah.
This was the first Battle Royale I ever actually had experience with, aside from maybe like 100 hours in H1Z1, which was very, very, very casual with friends on the weekends, just struggling to get a win. The whole concept of projectiles instead of hit scan was mind-blowing to me, and it took me a while to get my first win.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely had to grind it out.
I mean, dude, like, I don't know if I've said this. I can't remember if I said this in the first podcast, in the first episode we did, but I remember when I first started playing this game, because it was like the 10K tournaments, and I saw somebody streaming the 10K tournaments, and I was like, oh, this game looks cool. At the time, I was just doing like random playthroughs of games on Steam. So I was doing like the BioShock series and just like a bunch of recommended Steam games that I thought looked fun and streaming that. And I was like, you know, this is okay. Like, I'd like to really find a game after playing League for 6 years and after playing WoW for 6 years. I was like, I need something to like have as a main game. And so I was like, okay, sweet. Like, let me pick something out. And so when I saw this, it immediately clicked, and I was like, I gotta give this a shot. But I'm not gonna lie, it took me like 5 days to get my first kill. Like, it was bad. Like, it was real bad.
First kill, huh?
Yeah,
Not
no,
even
seriously. I kept on messaging my cousin because I was like, dude, I'm checking out this Realm Royale game. And actually, I got it from Insom's stream. Like, Insomnia, is it GG? Insomnia GG? I saw him streaming with his squad. And then I was like, oh, I'm going to give it a try. And I kept on messaging my buddy who's like, a good friend of Insom. And I was like, dude, how long does it normally take for people to get a kill? Because the first patch that I started playing was like the 6-man squads patch,
Oh, you started playing that recently?
Yeah. Like it wasn't like it wasn't until like end of July. I maybe had like 4 games with the classes. So I played like 4 games with like 3 abilities in the classes. So
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry you had to do that.
So like I jumped in and was terrible. I mean, just terrible. And I'm still not great, but I'm at least killing people and better. I would like to think I'm an average player. But anyway, so like that was like, I'm not gonna lie, like I'm a pretty determined person, but that was pretty tough coming in, trying to figure out like, hey, how can I be okay at this game? How can I get good? And it just took some like, head against keyboard, like just hang in there, keep playing. I would do a couple games where I'd hot drop and try and get a kill, and then I'd do a couple games where I would like hide and like just to see, like maybe have 1 or 2 kills and then see if I could get in the top 10.
Timmy.
Yeah, dude, just like for the excitement, right? Like, that was just part of it. But so I don't know, like I'm excited to do this episode because I feel like there's such an influx of players right now playing this game, and I want to kind of like help some of them not have to go through what I went through, because it is intimidating, especially for Xbox players, PS4 players to jump in and do this. And even just new players in general. So one of the things I want to try and like help, because we have such a wide array of people in here, is maybe like certain things we're going to talk about today, guys, all of those of you watching, is we're going to talk a lot about like things that will translate across all systems. We will do some PC specific tips like game setup and what you should do as a new player when you're first starting out to play, just like some advice on what's worked for us. But like a lot of that may not translate cross console. So just like keep that in mind. But a lot of the other stuff we will be talking about is more about how to play, not just like, which platform you're playing on. So I don't know. Let's just jump into the first bullet point, which is like tips for new players, specifically game setup. And then we can talk more about mechanics and goals and decision making and that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
absolutely. So if you want to jump into that, my first question for you, Mouse, is like, if you're a new player and you want to be good like Mouse, do you have to use the arrow keys?
I knew that was coming. I was gonna say, I saw the first bullet point and I'm like, you don't want to know my game setup because it is so non-traditional and I would not recommend it or wish it on anybody. But yes, I am an arrow key gamer, and I don't think anyone should use arrow keys. It's just something that it's a habit I've had since I played, Duke Nukem when I was 8 or whatever, however old I was, and I never switched.
So like, how do you hit spacebar? Is it like with your pinky?
What's a spacebar? I've never used that in my life.
You don't use spacebar?
Do you use 0?
No, I use numpad 0.
Okay, numpad 0.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I mean, if you really want to know
that
my main
off.
controls, I can walk you through it. It's a little bizarre, but it just works for me. The thing is that it doesn't translate well to other games.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, Realm Royale is a very, very intuitive and simple game in terms of 2 abilities, 2 weapons. That's all you got to do, right?
Yeah.
Whereas in Fortnite, you have 18 different controls for building or whatever, or in all these other games, you have to be doing a million different things at once. This game is very simple, which I like. So it works for my setup.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what would you recommend, Lynn? What's ideal? Like, I mean, I've had some people offer me tips, but what do you think?
WASD, I mean, the default is fantastic. You really just need to do what's comfortable for you.
Yeah.
That's my big recommendation for anything from mouse sensitivity to scope sensitivity to controls, is just find what works for you and stick with it. It doesn't matter what anyone else is doing.
Are you a low sensitivity person?
I have 1800 DPI and 3.9 cents.
Okay.
I started with 1800 DPI and 8 sensitivity, and I've worked my way down over the last 6 months.
Yeah.
And I definitely think I have a better shot now than I did 6 months ago.
Yeah.
But again, that's also preference. If you watch some players, they have insanely high sensitivity.
Yeah.
Like Hodsick.
Dude,
I was gonna say Hodsick plays at, and Flex Peke is another one who I talked to recently, and I was like, how do you guys play it that high? I used to use I think it was like 1200 DPI, and I played at like 15 sensitivity, which I think was the default.
Yeah, that's default.
And I liked being able to 360 without having to move my arm. But then I couldn't land as many shots, and people kept telling me to turn it down. And I think it was you who said you were at like 3.9, so I dropped it down to like 7, and I was like, this is pretty low, and it still was a little bit too high. So, I mean, for those people who are playing at default, do you think it's worth getting used to the game first, or do you think they should just go ahead and drop their sensitivity down right away?
Well, I think a lot of it too also depends on what games you've played previously. Usually you kind of have a sense of what your wrist is comfortable doing and what your arm is comfortable doing, and you know what you're kind of used to, and you kind of try and match that. If this is your first game, then you kind of got to experiment and just see what's comfortable. For me, I don't know. I feel like people make a big deal about sensitivity and DPI, but for me, I go into a game, I move my mouse around for about 2 minutes, and I figure it out, and I just stick with it. That's all it is to me. I've never asked somebody what their sense is to try and copy it. Like, I just
you figure that out.
Yeah, just figure out what's comfortable and stick with it.
Yeah. So one of the problems, and this is maybe just a tip, like for those out there, if you are struggling with this, one of the problems that I was struggling with, and I still struggle with it, is I get really nervous when I get like a top 10. I don't get as nervous as I used to, but I mean, I still like, I choke so many wins where I'm like, I should have won that. Like, and a lot of the times I find my wins come from streaming when chat's distracting me because I relax and I just play better. Yep. But one of the issues that I had was I would get like a top 5 or a top 3, and I would just like miss everything. So I realized like what was happening was I was thinking too much. My heart rate would go up, and I would miss all these shots. So I started to lower my sensitivity more. And I asked a couple people what they did just to get like a pulse on like what would be like a happy medium, you know? Which some people are all over the place. But for me, I found like, I think I'm at 800 DPI and at like 6, but I'm not positive about my DPI, to be honest. Because my mouse, I don't actually know. I just know that it has four settings. I'm on setting 2. Okay, like, you know what?
Yeah,
that doesn't.
I didn't even know my DPI until last week when I downloaded this Logitech program. I had no idea.
Yeah, so I'm just like, setting 2 sounds good. But then I lowered it to like 6.5, and then I incrementally lowered it down more until I felt like it was too slow. You know what I mean? Like once I got to like 6, I was like, oh, that feels too slow. So I incrementally kept moving it down until I found like a healthy spot where I'm like, I can still turn, I can still shoot, but I feel like my scopes are better, and I feel like my shots got better, and I feel like the more I relax, I do better as well in that regard. So if you're struggling with that, maybe try that, you know?
Yeah, I will say one thing about Realm Royale specifically being ability-based is that you do need to be able to flick pretty quickly.
Yeah.
With people blinking behind you, or you know, heroic leaping into the sky. Thank God thrust is gone, but you might need a little bit higher sense than you would maybe in Counter-Strike. I don't know.
That's good.
But you definitely do need to be able to flick in this game because of the ability-based Royale concept.
Yeah. And I've learned that just from watching people. Like, honestly, one of my big things and one of my big tips for people is just watch streamers and see what other people are doing. Like, I try intentionally to like learn every time I tune into a stream on how they're playing, especially if I know that it's somebody who's, you know, a top tier player, to see like what their play style is and what they're doing that I'm not doing, you know, how they approach the game and how they make decisions, which I don't know if that translates all the time, but sometimes it can be very beneficial for you. I was watching a little Raisin stream the other day and was legit shocked because I was like, do you always flick like that? And part of it, he was memeing just a little bit because he's you know, he's like that. But for some of it, like he was doing these left flicks that I was like, holy crap, like how are you even doing that? But I was just learning like how he was shooting and how he would peek and shoot and how he would flick. And I'm like, I need to start practicing that because I don't do that. And I noticed how quick he is to peek and how quick he is to flick, you know? So like, those are things that it's like, if you're an average player or you're a new player, like tune into these streams and try and see, like, stay humble for one, but also try and see like, hey, like what are these guys doing that I'm not doing, you know? And you could grow a lot just simply from doing that. That's
a great demonstration too of just how different shooting styles are, you know, better for different people. Like Raisin is a very unique shot. I know how he shoots. If I see him in game, I know who he is.
Yeah.
He shoots way differently than say like Toaster Strudel, but both of them are very good shots, you know? So you got to find what works for you and is comfortable as you play the game more.
Yeah, that's one thing I will also add is as you start learning a lot more about the game, like I notice when I watch you and I watch Raisin and I watch other people play, you start to notice things like incrementally. So like you don't have to overwhelm yourself trying to understand every little thing. Like move it section by section. So like at first it was like, all right, what is peeking? I literally had never heard of peeking. And so I'd watch you guys and you guys would stay around the corner, you'd line up your shot, and then you'd like really quickly come out and shoot. And then I started noticing like, oh, he's grabbing the high ground a lot, like mid fight. And so like I would notice more and more, and I still do. Every time I watch, it's like, oh, I didn't even know that that thing could be done. So you don't have to overwhelm yourself like trying to learn it all at once. It'll come with time, and a lot of those like nerves that Monty was talking about as well, while executing these things, will sometimes make you mess up, but that also will go away with time. So, yeah, these are all good, really good points, though.
Yeah. I want to do like a quick overview and you guys just kind of respond in terms of what you think, and maybe you can add to this list. So like as a new player, like brand new to the game, like brand new to even shooters in general, here are like some real basic tips, like just real general tips for you as you start to pick up Realm Royale. The first one is high ground is king. Always try and get high ground if you can. As Lee said, always try and right peek. One of the things I've learned from right peeking is that I read this earlier, that left peeking shows way more of your body than right peek. I don't know if all offhand abilities are left hand abilities though. Is that right? Do you guys
abilities?
So like flare, for example, I know you shoot flare with your left hand in Realm. You know what I mean? So if you're right peeking, like, and you shoot your ability, sometimes it can like get stuck in the wall or whatever because you
absorbed by the wall.
Yeah. So like, I'm not sure if all of them are like that, but I know flare specifically is like that. So if you're trying to flare, then you have to like, find a different position. But always try and right peek. I never knew that. Oh, really?
I never even really thought about that. Abilities coming from the left hand. Now I got to go back and check.
Yeah. Like, yeah. So, yeah. And if you guys know in chat, now I know there's some experienced people here in chat. Feel free to chime in and blast arrows like that too. I see arrows saying that. So like a lot of abilities are probably left-hand abilities. Then I'm guessing. I mean, that makes.
I never really thought about that. I always figured they just came from the center.
Oh, that's
it. Yeah, I usually aim from the center as well.
Bullets came from the right.
Yeah, we'll have to test that later.
I think one thing that's bringing that up is one time Monty and I were doing duos and people were watching. I think Hunj Kato specifically. I kept trying to peek and flare at the same time, and the wall kept eating it, and that's when. So it might just be flare. Or maybe I'm also bad at peeking, so that's probably something to do with it. But
maybe hunters are all left-handed, huh?
I think you shoot left-handed because all my shots go into the wall too. So that must be it.
Yeah. But anyway, sorry, let's get back on topic here. Okay, so always high ground, always try and get right peek because it shows less of your body while you're shooting. What are some other ones? Forging, try and be aggressive and get forges. Like if you don't forge, it's difficult to place well at the end, right? I don't know. What else would you guys add to that list? Like just real general for brand new players.
I'm curious to know, Mouse, what was kind of like your journey into like applying what you knew from other games and realizing like how to tailor them to like Realm? What were like the pieces that you kind of put together that brought you where you are today in terms of mechanics and whatnot?
I mean, I think World of Warcraft had the biggest impact on Realm for me. Just being able to, go from managing 30 abilities to 2 makes it so seamless, and to kind of understand, when you can and can't use them and what you can kind of get away with. Counter-Strike, again, really didn't translate too well for me other than just basic aiming capabilities. And again, it's a different aiming system, right? It's first person to third person projectile. The weird thing that I did that you can't really do anymore because queue times are about 1.5 minutes, is for like 2 or 3 weeks, I would just drop in Lumber Falls and I would clear out the area or I would die. But even if I cleared out the area and had back in the day 8 or 10 kills, I would just leave the game and I would do it again. Because my philosophy, I didn't care about winning. All I wanted to do was fight as much as possible.
Interesting.
And back then, on the drop, you would get 8 to 10 fights right off the bat.
Yeah.
Against good players.
Yeah.
And so that's how I kind of really went into each zone with that mindset. I'm going to drop here, clear it out, leave the game, and do it again with this 30-second queue and just getting as many fights as possible. And so that's why, like, for example, Lumber, I feel so comfortable there because I would drop there for a month straight and really master that zone and the angles. And I think that's the most important thing for new players, is to just commit to a class, commit to a zone, master it, and then move on. That's the most important thing.
Dude, I love that.
And that's how you're Yeah, that's how you're going to learn the map, and that's one of the biggest things in a battle royale.
Yeah. I like that because it also develops good habits. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Well, like now, obviously it's difficult because there's bots in the game. So there are some that it's like, and I'm glad they increase the damage on them because you literally don't want to fight them without peeking because they shoot really well. So like try and develop good habits. You know what I mean? Like one of the bots that got introduced, I developed some bad habits. I'm not gonna lie. Like I was like, oh, I'll just like face roll these things, and you could, you know.
Yeah, I used to be able to call myself a bot, but I can't because now they hit more shots than me.
I know, right?
Now I don't know what I am anymore. I've lost my realm identity.
You're just a mannequin, Lee. You're just a mannequin.
I'm just a mannequin. I'm just a free target that sits in the tutorial now.
Yeah. So, all right. Anything else you guys want to add to those general tips? Like, you know, I love like learn the areas, just fight as much as you can to get the mechanics down. What about weapons? Should they use all the weapons, or should they like focus on just finding a loadout they like the best? Should they focus on one class or play them all?
Yeah, I mean, again, in your first couple of days of Realm, they really should be spent trying every class, trying every ability, every weapon. Don't just stick to one thing and think, okay, this is the best thing ever, because you're missing out on learning other stuff and how to beat other stuff.
Yeah.
But you really should be trying the classes, see what playstyle clicks with you, then, you know, commit to that one class for a month and really learn that class inside and out. But don't be afraid to try other abilities as well.
Yeah.
And see what other pro players are doing, and then getting in as many fights as possible within reason. Like if you have 600 HP, you don't get in a fight.
Yeah.
But you need to kind of ask yourself, do I stand a reasonable chance of winning this fight against this guy based on his loadout and what I have? And if you do have a good chance, go and take that fight. Doesn't matter if you win or lose, just learn from it.
Yeah.
That's good.
I think sorry, go ahead, Lee. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, yeah. I think the mindset, if you're just looking to win games, you could easily, you know, pick up on patterns that can let you do that. Like Monty and I have done some duos for fun, and like multiple times you'll see two assassins who are literally sitting in a house waiting to the top 4, and then they just come like mow us down with dual venom pistols.
Yep.
And so you should always shard those. That's
but those two players, they're never going to get anywhere, right? Because if they're getting in one fight per game and you guys are getting in, you know, 5 or 6 fights per game, you're going to be infinitely better in a week. You know?
Yeah.
Don't be a camping little Timmy.
And honestly, it does feel bad to do that right now because of the whole armor pot debacle, which I don't really want to get into entirely. But I will say that, like, this idea of hoarding, well, not hoarding armor pots, but like when you fight, you lose armor, and it puts you in a poorer position for late game. So I like that because it kind of transitions us into the next thing, which is like a mindset thing. I don't want to go past aim, weapon selection, and position, but I want to touch on a point real quick here that like mindset's huge in this game. And if you approach it like Mouse is saying, where it's like, just get better, focus on getting better, don't focus on winning, just focus on being a good player. Like, because you can be a really good player, not have many wins, you know, and you can grow exponentially if you don't focus on wins, you know, by developing good habits and by figuring out what it means to be a good gamer, which I want to talk about later on. But like that kind of mindset is important for new players, because a lot of people might get discouraged and be like, oh, I never win. And it's like, listen, it doesn't matter. If you wake up at 5 a.m. and queue, you know, on the servers in America, you're going to get wins, like regardless, you know, so like, you know, I'm just saying.
Are you calling me out right now?
So no, I'm not. But
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, but I mean, seriously, like, you know, so focus on being a good player. Don't focus on winning. You know, don't hide in a room and never get any weapons and be like, oh, I got 8th place. Like, you know, oh, I got top 5. Like, so what? You hid in a room. GG.
Right.
That's how it was an H1Z1. Never got anywhere.
Yeah.
Oh. Yep. So was that one of your first BRs that you played?
I played it very minimally with friends on the weekends, and we maybe had a total of 10 squad wins in the 100 hours we played.
Wow.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
But, you know. But you mentioned Fortnite, though. Did you play that one?
I've played like 6 hours of Fortnite.
Oh, okay. So not much.
Yeah.
No, and that was after Realm.
I mean, if you're playing Fortnite, you should build a giant tower and then hide in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So this isn't Fortnite. Thank God. So... All right, well, let's move on here. I want to talk about some mechanics, because, like, I feel like the big thing for playing this game, like, honestly, like, knowledge and understanding of the game is one. But the next thing is like mechanical play. Like I feel like in a lot of esports and a lot of high end play, when you're playing a game, mechanics all of a sudden become very important. So I have like a list there, like aim, weapon selection, positioning, class selection. We did some of that, but like, what do you think mechanics are for this game? Like, obviously, aim and your ability to shoot is really important. What else comes into play?
I mean, I wouldn't say it's very much a game mechanic. It's just more so being able to think ahead based on where the zone's at. I think there's a lot of micro decisions now that you can use any ability or any weapon, that if you make the right micro decisions throughout the game based on what you pick up, knowing where the zone is going, you can really have an advantage. And knowing what you see in the kill feed. If you see somebody in the kill feed that's lighting people up with a fire axe, and he has 15 kills by the time the final zone's coming in, you're going to know to keep your distance and maybe use barricade instead of healing totem or something.
Whoa.
It's being able to kind of gather information and think ahead and strategize your fights before they even happen based on the information you've gathered, I guess. I wouldn't really say that's much of a game mechanic, though. I don't know if that's what you're going for, but...
I mean, I like that.
That's really
I like
good.
that
Yeah,
tip,
that's
though. That's a freaking pro tip, dude. I don't do that. I need to start
I was
doing
gonna
that.
say, I feel like I speak for like the common pleb who's just like, Monty and I are both admit that we're very average. And like those are the types of decisions that are hard to see on stream until you're starting how to make those decisions. And I could say that I probably don't even notice when you guys are doing that when I'm watching your streams. But that's really good. That's really great information.
Yeah. I mean, again, the mechanics in Realm they're pretty straightforward. It's like you said, aim, positioning, like you already said, high ground is very important. Knowing, kind of again, map knowledge, knowing where to go so that you don't get pinched in that top three.
Yeah.
Knowing what cover is best. But then again, it's just going down and trying all the different abilities so you know what's good against what, so that when the time comes and you can identify who the threat in the game is, you can kind of counter them.
Yeah.
Game sense, I guess. Yeah.
And like, I love that tip though, that it's like, you can even, if you have the option to like choose a layout that, like you said, paying attention to the kill feed and choosing a layout that helps you against a specific person because you know that they're like steamrolling, the game right now. Like, I think that's really huge. Like, I never really thought about it like that. Like, sometimes I'm just like, I'll just pick whatever ability is best, Oh, this is legendary, I'll take this, But picking an item that may help you specifically with a certain player, or even being prepared that it's like, hey, there's a warrior out there. Well, a warrior, maybe he's a warrior, but there's somebody out there with a fire axe that's like obliterating somebody. Like, I should probably have, a source of rejuvenation and maybe want to keep distance, like maybe I want to try and fight from a distance with him if I have longbow or something as a hunter. I don't know, like those, I think that's huge. That's an awesome tip. So,
yeah, and then like, to piggyback off that as well, like even just knowing the zone, maybe the final zone's in Goblin Gulch, which happens, every 10 games, and you're a mage and you have a legendary wall, which is great and fun and an amazing spell. But because you're in Goblin Gulch, maybe picking up even a gray concussive grenade is a better pick because you can bounce them down to the low ground. So it's kind of planning for the zone you're going into as well based on the circle. What's around you.
Yeah, and something for new players, like a mechanic that I think for new players is really important. One of the guys that actually kind of helped me, literally I was streaming it. The first time I started playing this game, I streamed it. I just was like, whatever, I don't care. Like, I suck. So, and I put that in my title. That literally was my title. Whatever, I don't care, I suck. So, and only one guy showed up, but he had like a lot of tips for me. His name was Windsong. So shout out to him, dude, because he really helped me like improve as a player in the squads and invited me with some of his friends to play and whatever. But anyway, so one of the things he told me was use all of your abilities, like use them. Like, and I didn't really think about it that way. It's like, this is an ability class thing. It's so easy to be like, oh, just shoot. Like, no, don't shoot. Like, use your abilities, So if you're a new player, that's just a new player tip. I do want to jump in here real quick and talk with chat here. Guys, what I want you to do is we want to involve you guys in this discussion a little bit. So if you have questions, we're going to post a Discord link. And what we'd like you to do is if you have the ability to get in Discord and ask questions, we'd like to bring you onto the show and actually bring you into the chat channel. into the voice channel and ask the question to us, or make maybe a hot take if you have a hot take on stuff. This is kind of more question related since we're talking about how to get good at Realm Royale. So if you want to ask Mouse a question, or if you want to ask a question that's specific about what you should do differently, we're going to post the Discord link, and you can jump in here, and what we want you to do is post your question and call on topics. It's a chat channel, and then Lee will pull you down to mic check and just make sure your mic's working, and then at a certain point in the show, we'll start bringing people in to ask questions and trying to address some specific things as well. So it'll be in between the discussion points, but if you guys have specific questions you want to talk about, please jump in here in Discord and do that. So I'm going to spam a link here in the chat. So
here come the trolls.
Yeah. Here comes that Hops question. I haven't seen him in chat yet.
I think I might have saw him earlier.
Oh, really? Maybe he's
he was
lurking.
On vacation. Hopefully he's not back yet. I'm kidding.
He's stealthily hiding, waiting to hop.
Right.
Anyway. So okay, let's keep going here. Goals for new players that they're starting out. We kind of addressed that a little bit. Do you guys have anything to add to that?
No, yeah, just focus less on winning and more on improving and trying out different parts of the game so you can fully understand it. I do think people that stream have a little bit of an advantage in getting better quicker because they can quickly go back after they die and read or watch a VOD.
Exactly.
See why they died. So if you are a streamer, I would encourage you to kind of have your VODs open as you stream, so that when you die, you can immediately go back and look at it. That's what I think I do more than any other Realm streamers. Anytime I die, I try to stray away from excuses, but sometimes they come out. But aside from that, I'll go in and watch the VOD and think about what I could have done differently. So the next time I encounter that same positioning, I know how to win it. So if you are trying to become competitive in the game, I would recommend maybe using plays.tv to record your gameplay or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, you can use another service if you're not streaming.
Yeah.
But just a reminder, guys, there's also a waiting room under the Realm Roundtable section of Discord where you can actually call in with your Discord, and I'll drag you in to mic check, and I'll ask if your mic is working and everything, and if everything goes to plan, we'll drag you into the live chat. But Mouse, I actually wanted to ask you something we didn't really touch on quite as much, which is aggression versus passive play, and kind of how that plays into mechanics. I know I personally, when I was starting out, I was very passive. And one of the biggest criticisms I got from people was to not be so passive, because maybe I hit a couple shots and they'd be like, you need to push that right away. So what would you say is a good kind of rule of thumb? I know it's situational, but if you had to generalize that.
Yeah, it's kind of funny actually, because in a public server, I'm probably one of the most aggressive players in the game. I'll just go in if there's 4 people doing solo squads, and I'll try and annihilate them. In competitive play, you'll probably see, in my streams when I'm streaming tournaments, that I'm one of the more passive players in the game. And so I think in a public server, the main idea behind deciding to push or stay back is just being good at tracking information. Again, going back to that, and that's basically how many times have you hit them? Is it yellow damage or red damage? How much damage does your current weapon do, and how much damage does their current weapon do?
Okay.
And kind of comparing, can I tank some damage here and push in to finish them off without dying? So it's really getting good at memorizing the damage of weapons and knowing when you can and can't push successfully, and knowing how soon you can kill them. My general rule of thumb is assuming that everyone is at max HP unless my first shot is red. So I assume everyone's at 3,000 HP. If I'm at 1,500 HP, I kind of plan my fights around that I need to maybe hit headshots only, or I need to be peeking very passively until I know they're within that 800, 900 HP range, then I can kind of push.
Oh, so you actually calculate. That's really good to calculate in your head. And you also mentioned another really good point, which is something that I didn't understand at first, and I still am learning it, but how do you calculate being willing to also take damage, whereas players like myself and some other newer players might be, I know, afraid of like taking any damage? But you're saying that you should actually put that into consideration, like be willing to tank some damage in order to win the fight.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's if you're doing kind of a DPS race, maybe it's one of those fights where you're just trading shots, and maybe you're at full HP going into this fight, and you shoot first, right? and let's say you have the same weapon. If you hit your shots, you're going to win the fight, right? Because you're trading shots. So you kind of have to be able to track what they have. If they have healing totem, it's kind of harder to track. If they have a shield, it's harder to track. But if it's a straight up aim fight, you need to be able to, one, be hitting your shots, aiming for the head, and then two, kind of be doing crouching, strafing back and forth to dodge their shots. As soon as you get that HP advantage, you need to take advantage of that and start pushing. And those 590s rack up. You don't have to add 590, 590, 590 from your slug. You can do 600, 600, 600. If you hit someone, 3 times with a slug, maybe it's time to push in if they've only hit you twice. It kind of comes with experience, I guess.
Yeah.
Just knowing, can I get away with pushing even though he has a better position than me, kind of thing.
That makes sense. And you mentioned another thing that's really important too. We talk about the obvious ones, which are high ground and peeking, but we could argue that an equally important, especially in close range combat, is the strafing and crouching. Is that something you picked up on right away? Would you recommend that people practice that right away?
I didn't pick up on that until a couple months ago, actually, probably 4 months into Realm.
Oh wow!
I would always strafe when I shot, but I never really got into the whole crouching thing. I forget. I think it was Mopork who was doing it a lot, and I told myself I really need to learn how to do this because whenever I fight him, I have a hard time hitting him, at least in the head. So I started doing it a lot with certain weapons, and the more you do it, the more you learn when to time your crouches. For example, maybe you're fighting somebody with a longbow. They have the longbow. You kind of know they have that 2-second draw time. So you can kind of, the more times you get in a fight against a longbow, you kind of subconsciously know when that next arrow is going to come. So you just duck at that right moment. So even if they hit you, at least it's not a headshot.
Gotcha.
That's usually where they're aiming.
Yeah.
But again, that's another thing that comes with time invested in getting in as many fights as possible. So you kind of just subconsciously learn when they're going to shoot.
That's good.
Yeah, I like that. I have one other one here. Lee, we have got one guy in the waiting room. Do you want to pull him down and see if he's interested
I'll
in
drop
coming?
out.
Okay. One other question here would be for like weapon selection. I know that you really like revolver, so I had a question. Do you typically pick weapons that are like, I have one long range weapon and then one DPS weapon? So whether that's like longbow and revolver, or whether that's slug, crossbow, or something like that. Like, how do you pick weapons?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think that's where a lot of the fun in the game comes from, is when something pops out of the forge, you can kind of adjust what else you're looking for based on what you get.
Yeah.
If you're a hunter and you get a longbow, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it's best, longbow's kind of your burst weapon. You want to kind of hit that 1800 damage headshot. And then you need something to kind of finish quickly on somebody. Slug is a good option normally. However, it's not a good finishing weapon because it's not fast. Revolver, crossbow, anything that kind of shoots rapidly after and has high DPS is good in combination with kind of a burst weapon. So I really enjoy kind of your weapon that you try and get off one big shot with, and then swapping to something that's kind of do.
Gotcha.
Lately, you've probably seen me be doing a lot of sniper stone staff because I think that the burst from the sniper into the burst from the stone staff is very powerful.
Gotcha.
But long range, close range, I don't really take that too much into consideration, because if I do have 2 close range weapons, then I'll just change my playstyle to make sure I'm playing in close range situations, maybe in houses and less on hills, that kind of thing.
Okay, so it can make sense if you do a 2 long range weapons, for example. Like if you go longbow slug, like it makes sense. You just don't want to like hit them with one shot and then push into them.
Exactly. If you're doing kind of like a slug longbow setup,
yeah,
you really want to try and keep the fight mid range until you can catch them 2 or 3 shots.
Gotcha.
But I really do kind of enjoy a burst into a faster shooting weapon to mow them down.
Yeah, that's setup.
Usual setup.
Yeah, it helps with the playstyle. I've tried that lately because I play a lot of hunter. So I've tried. Obviously, crossbow is like, oh, it's beautiful. But with longbow, if I get like a legendary longbow, I do like revolver, which a lot of people don't like revolver. But I try and pick something. Lee's laughing, dude. Lee doesn't.
Revolver is secretly a tier 1 weapon that no one realizes is actually amazing, and I think that whether you're a casual player and you need something that's hit scan, that's easy to hit headshots with, or a competitive player, I think you should possibly consider taking it every game. I'm almost at that point. In competitive play in squads, especially because being able to dismount someone instantly
Yeah.
Oh, I
is
didn't even think
so
about that.
powerful. Yeah, it's so
Good point.
powerful in competitive play in a tournament. Being able to flank someone and dismount one guy and everybody has a revolver just mowing them down, beautiful.
Yeah.
We actually have a question that's relevant to weapon choice selection. Is it cool if I drag him in?
Yeah, bring him in.
All right. Introducing Mr. Lucky Fire.
Lucky Fire.
Hey,
What's
Lucky
up,
Fire, welcome to the show, man. What's your question?
Hey guys, thanks for having me on. Yeah, so it's related. I was asking, I was going to ask Lee, but for obviously for idiotMouse, how important is it to stay close to your class as far as weapons and abilities? Like, we're talking long range, short range. How do we balance it? But if I find that, I really like mage and that's what I've been playing, but bow is my weapon. I just love it, which this is my personal problem. Should I be playing the weapons that I love? Should I rethink my class? How much does that matter?
Yeah, it's a really good question. Lee, do you want to go first? You want me to take it?
Oh no, take it.
Okay. I think it kind of depends on what you're looking to get out of the game. If you are looking to take your gameplay to the next level and kind of be at that competitive level, you really need to be opting for optimal play. And if you are a mage main, your optimal play probably is the stone staff, right? Because it has so much burst. There's nothing wrong with taking a bow with the stone staff. I just think there are better options. But then again, you can also go back and say if the bow really is what you're most comfortable with and you're always going to hit those bow shots, then maybe that's more valuable to you than what's quote unquote optimal play. You kind of need to sit down with yourself and be real and ask yourself, am I missing 3/4 of my bow shots? Because if so, maybe I'm not as good with it as I think I am. If it's just casual play and you're just having a good time, by all means, take the bow. But if you're really trying to get into that competitive scene, you want to take what your class stuff is and what's going to be most effective for your class to maximize your damage, right?
That's awesome. No, that's really helpful to hear. I think what I've actually more been considering too is it turns out I'm the bar is very low for how I play. It's nothing like what any of you guys are doing. But what I was reconsidering is, well, shoot, what I actually liked the most about mage was soar, and I because I'm new and I can use it to run away and I can figure stuff out with that. Yep. Should I actually be instead changing up my class and just picking up soar and giving staying away from the roll and all that stuff?
Yeah, and it's a really good question because that's what makes Realm exciting right now. There's trade-offs. If you commit to mage, your soar lasts so much longer and it's very powerful. Whereas if you go to hunter, you can still kind of get away with soar, but the duration is much lower. And then as hunter, obviously you're always pretty much guaranteeing a longbow. So again, it comes down to what do you think is more important for your play style? Do you need to get away more often, or do you find yourself wanting to use the bow more often? You can also,
I mostly just need to run away from holy guac all the time, so I need that sword pretty bad.
And I mean, another thing too to consider is that if you really only enjoy mage for sword to get away because you're finding yourself at a disadvantage in fights, maybe just commit to hunter then, because as time goes on, you're going to become a better player and you're going to need to run away less, right? So just commit to hunter.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and get really good with the bow, and you'll have to run away less.
Awesome, man. Well, that was really helpful. I appreciate it.
Well, one thing Lucky Fire as well is, I think, like you're talking about, like you said, you were a new player to the game, which I think I've played with you before, right? Lee, he's a friend of yours?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I thought so. Yeah. We played together once. Yeah. I remember, if you are a newer player to the game, like find something that you're comfortable with and find that comfort zone for you. But then when you start to feel like, oh, I found this comfort zone, then maybe branch out and try and become adequate with all kinds of different weapons. I think it's really beneficial personally. This is from my experience. This is not everyone else's experience. Personally, I found it really helpful when I switched to Hunter from Warrior. I started out on Warrior and then I switched to Hunter because Hunter really helped me shoot well. And so if you're doing well with Longbow, which is a harder weapon to shoot in the game, I think that you have a really good starting base to then branch out and start using other weapons, like Slug, and start using other weapons that aim similarly to Longbow, and then that kind of helps you become a little bit more diverse as a player as you start to try and look for that next level, growth. So like finding that niche can be helpful, especially in your aim, because my aim got like so much better once I switched to Hunter, just from using Longbow and Crossbow. So cool.
No, I think you guys have me convinced. I appreciate all the input, and if bows are my strength, and honestly, I just enjoy shooting them. I don't know if that's been my experience playing like VR and getting all the fun of shooting bows and arrows there, but that's what I love about it. So I'm going to keep playing it. And in that case, I probably need to make the transition to Hunter more permanent, and maybe I'll use Soar as a crutch for a little bit in the meantime.
That's perfect, man.
Play to your strengths, man. Play to your strengths.
Cool, dude. Hey, thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, appreciate you having me. Really enjoying the stream and the content you guys are all putting out.
Thanks, man.
Thanks. Awesome.
All right.
Good question.
Yeah, it's a real good question. So, okay, let's move on to the next talking point, which I want to start talking some about, and we've addressed it a little bit here already about this idea of like, don't always try and just win, because wins aren't necessarily a great rubric for a good player. But one of the things that I want to talk about is for more of the people that have, I figured that a lot of people that would be here may not be new. Some may be, but some may also be players like Lee and myself who have over 200 hours in the game and are just struggling to maybe take our game to that next level. Like, what is the difference when you get to between the pros and the average Joes? So like, you've played the game, you know, like, and we're going to talk more about what makes a good player. Maybe we can fit that into this discussion as well. But like, what would you say the difference is there?
Yeah, I think we kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, which is game sense, and that comes from the number of hours you've put into the game. You know, for example, like I said, I used to always drop at lumber, right? And I would bet money that I have dropped at lumber more than any other player in the game, and because of that, I will win 90% of fights there, just because I'm so comfortable in that zone. I know the angles, I know every little corner of that map, I know where the chests are, and because I've fought there so much, I know, based on experience, where a lot of players like to move from and where they like to fight. And so I can really take advantage of that because I'm always 2 steps ahead of them, knowing what angles are going to peak from, when they're going to peak, the timing of when certain spots are going to connect and a fight's going to break out, and the best angles. So I think, again, it really goes back to just committing and mastering a certain zone.
Yeah.
Developing game sense for that certain zone, and then moving on to the next zone and developing game sense for that one until you've gone through every single zone and you can really consistently win every fight in every area. I think that's going to be the big determining factor as this game starts to grow and we start to see more of a competitive scene, is who's put in the actual work on winning fights and not winning games.
That's good.
All right. So I have a quick question to follow up with that. Yeah. Like, okay, so like, for example, I know a lot of people that just drop lumber, which is like fine. Again, we're drawing the discrepancy between having fun and taking your game to the next level. So like, I think like right now the 3 hot drops are probably help me out, Lee. Crossing, Lumberfall, and Jade, right? Yep. Okay, so those are probably the 3 hottest drops. Do you, like, for example, have you spent a ton of time like at Goblin Gulch or something, like learning that area? Or like, I mean, you
definitely want to spend more time on the areas that are more towards the center of the map. Yeah. Just because the zone more frequently ends up there. Again, Goblin Gulch pops up 1 in every 10 to 15 games that the final zone is there. So I will say I am not as comfortable there as maybe a console player is. You know, I would guarantee a console player has dropped there more times in the last 2 weeks than I have. But it's very infrequent that I'm fighting there. Yeah. But if you find me in Jade or Fungal, Lumber, Crossing, Northport, Old Manor, any of those places that are kind of common zones, I can tell you every single chest spawn. I can tell you every single corner. I can tell you where your gun's going to clip or your bullets aren't going to go through just from dropping there so much.
Dude. I think it was you. I think it was you that told me this, which is insane. Okay, like my mind was blown where you were like, in these buildings, your bullets don't go through the railings. And I forget where was it? That was
it's the Valley Forge, and it's the purple roofed house in Crossing with 2 stories.
Yeah. So like,
railing there you can't shoot through. Yeah.
I mean, like, I don't even know what to say. Like, okay, so if I face idiotMouse and he pushes me. Or no, let's say he's in the forge and I push him. You said at Crossing, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Crossing and Valley, yeah.
So if I don't know that and I push him in the forge and I'm aiming up, like that, I would totally change my decision on where I'm going to push. at Valley, whether I go around the back and go up the steps or whether I come in the main entrance and try and take you based on that knowledge. Like, that's the kind of stuff that's like, okay, like I never would have thought of that. So when I read that, my mind was blown that it was like, wow, this dude has clearly knows this game. You know what I mean? Like,
and it's something that someone that knows that can take advantage of, right? If I'm in the valley, someone's going to push me from the front.
Yeah.
I will happily crouch down so they can see me through that railing. And they're thinking they can shoot me through it, right? And they will unload their entire clip. And as soon as the clip is done, I'll drop down and they're reloading. It's like, because I know the map better than you. I know it's messed up, but I know the map better than you. And whether it's a bug or not, I mean, it's still map knowledge, right?
Yeah.
And you can take advantage of that. And so those little things, again, you start to learn as you play more and more, and you can build that advantage against your opponent from learning from it.
Yeah, and to give you guys more credit as well for the pros, a lot of people will say, and it's true, like, Monty and I have about 300 hours. You guys have thousands of hours. But not just raw playing time either. You also, a lot of you guys who are the pros play very intentionally. So you can have only like Arrow says he started around the time we did, but he has game sense. So you can use that time more intentionally and get more time out of it as well. And we kind of get to cheat because we get to learn from these guys who have gone through the mud, and they can kind of give us the shortcuts, which is why this podcast is so cool. And it's so cool to have Mouse on, is if you start now doing the things he's telling you that's taken him thousands of hours to master, it'll still take time. Like you need to grind it out at some point, but these kind of things can help you take you to that next level, even in the amount of time you have. So it's not just raw game time. It's not, you have to have a minimum of 1,500 hours before you can,
10,000 hours to master anything, right?
Yeah.
But it's actually interesting too, because sorry, go ahead.
No, all you, man.
I think the game being 6 months old, there still is a lot of room for the quote unquote pro players to really improve.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the next step for the pro players that are looking to take the game to the next level is really not just tracking your own cooldowns, but tracking your opponent's cooldowns down to the very second. Like, when someone's an ice block, exactly when they're going to pop out if they wait to the very end.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the time, an amateur player is going to wait until the very end. And if you can time that perfectly, you're going to have a huge advantage on them, or a ghost walk, or knowing when the barricade comes in. I think that's the next step.
I like that.
Is there a trick to knowing the rarities of, for instance, I know a lot of people can go, oh, I just got hit by a gold slug, and I can't, I'm not at that point yet. I just go, oh, I got hit, I'm freaking out. But is there a way, like with abilities and weapons, to know the rarity?
If you do get hit by a gold weapon or ability, you do hear an extra loud dink. There is a legendary sound.
Interesting. Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah. It sounds like a headshot, but it's not. It sounds like a headshot, but it's not. Even if you, the next time you're in a game and you have someone has a gold firebomb, go stand in it and you'll hear how much louder it is compared to a regular firebomb. It goes like ding, 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 ding. It's like piercing your armor or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. You just named like 3 of my relatives right there.
Oh my god.
Oh boy.
But
I'm sorry.
When it comes to abilities, you really don't have any idea what the length is. If it's in the end game, you can kind of assume it's purple or legendary, right?
Yeah.
But again, it comes down to maybe the fight, they're using the ability twice. The first time they use the ability, you count down.
Yeah.
To kind of get a sense of what it is. And the second time they use the ability, now you can, on the count of 4 is when this is going to end and I can shoot and kind of get that pre-fire.
That's good.
I think that's the next level of Realm on a professional scene, is really getting to manage those cooldowns of your opponent.
Yeah.
But I don't think any of us are there yet.
Yeah. And I think talent trees might help this a little bit when the talent tree system comes out, because, or at least I'm hoping that there is a level of removal of certain runes that totally like negate that even needing to do that. You know what I mean? Yep. So, ability cooldown, like, lucky you, but there's a level of, he's using this way more frequently. He's spec'd into this tree. Like, that would be even like cool. I don't know. Yeah. I'm just thinking out loud.
Maybe they have some kind of aura or something,
Yeah.
I was going to say, speaking of ability usage, we have a good friend, Holy Guac, who would like to ask a question.
Holy Guac. Yay.
What's up, Holy Guac? Welcome to the show, bro.
Hey guys, how's it going? I'm starstruck.
Yeah.
What's up, man?
What's up, guys?
Hey.
So let me just jump into it. Is that cool?
Yeah. What's your question? Go for it.
For Mouse, I've watched tons of streams, especially when I first started playing, and I probably learned the most from Mouse. But I think what was most beneficial for me at one point, and I don't remember when it was, but I'd asked him a few questions, and he kind of explained how he utilized some of the less desirable skills that some of us might just DE, such as a ice block or a wall, and how you can utilize those early game prior to finding your desired loadout.
Yep.
And ways to use those instead of just disenchanting them, to give yourself an advantage instead of just sharding it.
Yeah. I think I've been looking for weeks for a way to kind of describe this in like one word. And I think it comes down to basically holding initiative in a fight, if that makes sense. Spells like Concussive Grenade, Ice Wall, Proximity Trap, at a base level, they do one thing. But if in an amateur's hands, they do one thing, but in a pro level's hands, they do something so much more. And that's basically they let you control the pace of the fight. For example, Proximity Trap, one of my favorite spells, and the reason it's so much more powerful than it seems, even at the gray level, because your opponent has no idea what level it is, right? If you toss it at them, they're forced to make a decision. They have to either turn around and shoot the mine, or they shoot at you and take the damage from the mine. So these kind of spells like that force your, put the ball in the opponent's court, assuming he turns around, gives you initiative in the fight because you're shooting first, right?
Mm.
You can do this with Ice Wall. You can do this with Conch Bomb because you toss them into the air and they can't shoot back. Trying to get more value out of your spells in the early game when no one has, full HP makes these spells even more powerful than, say, a legendary Smokescreen on Assassin. I'd rather have maybe a green wall or a gray prox mine, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
It's all about getting the value out of your spells and trying to figure out how to know how to use full potential.
One thing,
Good stuff, man.
Yeah, I'll jump in here too. This isn't necessarily in response to your direct question, Guac, but it's kind of related. Is like, if you're a new player, in the chat or whatever, also don't get this mindset that like this is really bad. Like honestly, everything is bad and everything is good until someone figures out a way to break it. Okay.
Yep.
So like, for example, like Ice Block and Ghost Walk. Until it was like, holy smokes, you can overlap the cooldowns, and Exodia was born, right? Where you can't take damage from Legendary Ghost Walk, and you heal up from, and you can't be damaged with Legendary Ice Block. And all of a sudden it was like, holy smokes, like Mage is so overpowered right now. Where it's like, before it was like, Mage, like, so don't get this mindset that it's like no abilities are good. Like for me, when I first started playing, I was like, why would I ever use Flare? And then I discovered what peeking was, and I was like, holy smokes, Flare is so OP. Like,
yeah, same with Ice Wall.
And
Yeah,
dare I say it?
insane.
Dare I say it? Don't you spam me, but Hidden may have potential yet.
Oh man, I gotta go.
I love Hidden. I use Hidden all the time.
Listen, next level strat, okay? Next level strat.
Unless I get a withdrawal, right?
You know that mages with staves don't make footsteps, right?
Yeah.
Listen,
yeah.
I'm not lying to you. Next level strat.
Yeah.
This mage, me and her, end game, Goblin Gulch. I was shooting at her from across the map, and somehow she snuck up behind me, and I had no idea. I didn't have flare, so I couldn't see her, and she literally obliterated me in one shot and won the game with Hidden and like a bolt staff or something. So there are viable uses for all abilities. At least I would argue. Now, yes, some abilities may be like bad, but don't get into that mindset for you new players, because there are times where I like actually get memed by stuff. So
you can assume like certain things are undesirable forges, but like they're only really, to me, bad abilities in the game currently, just because they're underpowered, are hidden in charge. But like even Gray Ice Block, I think, is one of the best abilities in the early game out of every spell. It's just about, again, figuring out how to utilize the value of them compared with what weapons you have, and that's how you make your decisions, right? If you have a longbow, don't take Ice Block.
Yeah.
But if you have a slug, you take it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was gonna say I love bragging on you guys because so much of just watching you guys play and explain it has helped me. And one thing I noticed is I used to use, for instance, my the more defensive abilities either at the very beginning or the very end of a fight, and it would be for no reason, like, oh, I would ice block because I'm freaking out, but it's like I was one shot anyway.
Yep.
And one of the cool things I can remember specifically is I saw a mouse use an ice block. He would shoot either like a no scope or whatever, and then ice block right after because he knew that they were going to shoot him right as he initiated. And he would mitigate all their damage and then switch to his other weapon and blow them up. And that was cool because it's like, oh, I thought you would have to either use that at the very end or the very beginning of a fight. And he used it almost offensively.
Yep,
and
exactly.
same for movement abilities, I would say.
That's the perfect thing I mean by getting value out of it, right? Like basic level, ice block prevents damage, but at a better level, you shoot someone, you ice block to prevent damage, and then your opponent doesn't know when you're going to cancel it. You cancel it at your own will, so you know beforehand when you're going to shoot again, which basically gives you a 2-shot advantage over them.
Right.
It's little things like that that can really make you come out ahead on a fight.
Yeah.
Right.
It's good.
Yeah, and if you piece that together back with your out DPSing mindset,
Exactly.
you know, you're 2 shots up. If you have the same weapon, it's game over as long as you're hitting your shots. And you guys, I noticed you hit a lot of your headshots as well. I will call Guac out. He was the one who taught me that you can, and I see it a lot more now. It's almost like when you buy a car and then you see that car everywhere. He would shoot and dodge roll instantly so that it would throw off the opponent's shot. And now I see everyone. Guac was the first one I saw do it. So Guac, obviously, he's in here pretending to be a pleb, but everyone here knows he's amazing.
That's the way to do it. Use your abilities proactively rather than reactively. I think is a very good tip.
Yeah, that what Mouse just said about ice block is something that improved my gameplay exponentially early on because once I actually made that work, I was like, man, I'm gonna find a use for every skill and utilize every one of them.
That's good.
So.
Cool, yeah, and I'll say one last thing just to tie that all together. I noticed that when I would get too locked into the same weapon loadout, and I didn't care about the situation, which Mouse mentioned is kind of a more advanced technique looking into the situation, and not being willing to try other weapons, whenever I got into a good fight before I had my loadout, I would lose because I didn't know how to use anything else. Yeah. So to both of your points, Guac and Mouse's, you want to try all of the weapons and all of the abilities, so no matter what, you can put up a good fight. Maybe you're not as good with certain weapons and abilities, but at least you'll be able to put up a fight.
Yep. I mean, one of my favorite things to do too is like mid-fight, maybe we're fighting in a house and there's a sensor drone on the ground. I'll swap to the sensor drone to see where they're at real quick and then swap back to my other ability. It's being able to utilize everything and at a moment's notice.
Dude, that could be next level. That could be like super next level.
Yep.
Cool, man. Hey, thanks for the question, Guac. You got any other additional thoughts?
No, I'm good. You guys are doing a great job. I love the content.
Oh, thanks, man. Hey, thanks for coming on, dude.
We love you, Guac. What a guy.
Dude, he's the man. If you run into Guac and he's playing Hunter and he has a longbow, just return to lobby.
Mid-fight.
Yeah. Just be like, oh, it's done. Return to lobby. You didn't kill me, Guac, because I returned to lobby. Anyway.
That's why I hated when Mouse switched to Mage, because now whenever I hear a soar, I just Alt F4, so I don't even know if it's him.
Oh my god.
You just Alt F4?
Just Alt F4 right away, like I would have lost that one anyway. Just kidding, don't have that mindset. You're not going to get better like that.
Dude, okay, this is an epic moment for a good story, okay? This is how I learned how to do this. Every time you die, there's a way that you can learn from it, right? The first time I learned that you could body block people from jumping out the window was when I landed right next to Mouse.
Oh, I remember this.
in one of the towers in Lumber Fall. I landed literally like a split second after him, and immediately I ran at him with my knife, which I horribly misplayed it because I was a warrior, and this was still within like my first 50 hours of the game. But I went to like hit him with my knife, and I should have heroic leap because that was when heroic leap did damage. Man, I have to preface all this stuff. But anyway, then I went to jump out the window and he chickened me, and he stepped in front of the window, and you can body block people from jumping out of windows when they're chickens by just standing near the window, like in front of it. And I couldn't get out the window. That was your first time in
my stream, yeah.
Yeah. And I just was like, oh my God, that's so smart. Like, I never thought about that. So there you go, pro tip. But,
Yeah, usually people will jump way too much as chickens. I think that's a big mistake a lot of people make is when they're a chicken, they tend to jump a lot.
yeah.
And not only does that make it easier to hit them, but if they're jumping towards a window, it's easy to kind of just shoulder bump them and they can't fit through it, right?
Yeah.
So use the vault mechanic. Don't jump through a window unless you know they're not next to it.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Beautiful.
Oh my gosh.
Good times.
That was hilarious. I saw that happen live, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah, he was watching I was streaming when that happened too, right?
I don't even think you knew you had stream sniped him.
Yeah.
Or no, sorry, Q sniped him.
Q
not
snipe.
stream
Yeah, I don't stream snipe,
Q
bro.
snipe. He did not stream snipe you.
So
it's like one of those times where you're like, oh my gosh, I just died. Oh my gosh, it was Mouse.
Yeah.
So funny.
Yeah. Oh
man.
That one hurt a little bit, but that's okay. I learned from it. So
Well, Mouse got it back in the first RealmCom community tournament. Not to drop any shade there, but
yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
We were rooting for you, dude.
We
and
were
then, like,
rooting for
I
you.
tune in, we're watching. We're like, yes, Mouse is gonna do his thing. And then you were like, I've literally never lost to a dagger before, ever.
That was that was the most tilted I've ever been in Realm ever before. Galilean, if you're out there, I got a big middle finger for you. Okay.
That's so funny though. Oh man. All right. Well, let's keep going here. And again, chat, if you guys have questions that you want to ask Mouse or have something that you want to ask that relates to what we're talking about, feel free to post and call in topics in Discord and then wait in the waiting room, because if you're waiting in the waiting room, you have a higher chance of us bringing you in. We got to test your mic and all that stuff. So yeah, I'm going to post that link again for Discord right here for you guys. So if you have a question, feel free to jump in there. Type it in the chat and then wait in the waiting room and we'll pull you down. So let's move on to the next point about the proper mindset when playing. Some of this we've kind of talked about a little bit, but if you guys have any thoughts about this, like again, I've gotten nervous and struggled, but also I think there's like a mindset element where sometimes I feel like I play worse if I'm watching somebody stream and not focusing on the game. Like I struggle with that as well, but also just like, not getting tilted, like those kinds of things. And that kind of comes from my background in League of Legends, where I would feel like I would get tilted more from my team sometimes. But I found that I played so bad, and that when I was tilted and when I was losing and when I wasn't doing like what I thought I should do, or I wasn't like reaching the goals, or reaching like when I would get maybe a little bit too cocky or something and think, oh, I should be winning, and I shouldn't be in this division, and maybe I should have more wins, and maybe I should be hitting more shots, and maybe I should have more kills. You can get in this bad mindset. So like, what do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's easy in any video game to get into a bad rhythm after having a couple bad beats, right? And there's nothing wrong with just calling it a day early and playing something else or heading out. There have been a couple of times where I've had to end the stream because I'm just, even if it's just getting unlucky, it's really easy to get tilted, and maybe you have a cold and your cat's throwing up on the carpet, whatever it is, like you're just having a bad day. It's okay to just walk away. But if you're really, again, trying to get to that next level and you're really trying to become competitive, your mindset needs to be, like we keep saying, keep repeating, it's focus on the fights. And when you do die, your mindset needs to be, what can I have done better? Don't blame the class. Don't blame the lack of armor potions. Don't blame, oh, he had a better forge than I did. In a battle royale, there's always a way, right?
Yeah.
Even if it meant planning 5 minutes ahead, there's a way to come out on top. And so that needs to be your mindset going into it, is it doesn't matter if you die as long as you get better, right? You're not getting paid for this game, this one individual game. It doesn't matter, just play again,
Yeah.
Unless you're at HRX.
Yep, exactly. But if you are more just like a casual player, you want to have a good time, then just, grab a sword and make some clips. That's all it has to be. There's no reason to get tilted if you're just having fun,
Yeah.
That's a good point. Have fun. Just have fun.
Use the weapons you like, use the combos you like, use smokescreen hidden, Monty, if you want to.
One time I used withdraw smokescreen, and the guy didn't have flare, so I was Gucci, man. I was like having the time of my life. So yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, I would say too, just as with any game, also keep into account how tired you are. Like, as simple as that might sound, like that's a game changer. Like anyone who's ever competed professionally knows that like you need to sleep. And you need to eat well as well, which sounds silly if you're just having fun in a game, but that also contributes
It's funny you say that, because that I actually do have for my entire life, no matter what game I have played at a competitive level, Hearthstone, Counter-Strike, whatever, after the 4-hour mark for me is when my gameplay starts to go downhill. Slowly.
Oh, weird.
And then 6 hours and later, it just becomes, I get so lazy and kind of checked out in autopilot.
Yeah.
So my routine when I'm going into a tournament is always make sure I only warm up for like 20, 30 minutes tops. And then the rest of it, the next 4 hours is top-notch gameplay. But then I need to take a break. I have to take a break.
Oh.
I try and time my gameplay around that.
That's
you got to
really
be
good.
aware of kind of what you have, what your mental blocks are and what your fatigue level is and that kind of thing.
Yeah, if you want to know the mouse meta, there you have it. Don't Q snipe until he's in the 4-hour mark.
Yeah.
Just exclamation point uptime, and then see when it says 4 hours.
That's actually so accurate, though. You could do that.
That's funny.
Oh my gosh.
That's good though. I like that. I like that tip. I mean, do you ever just play like fun games? I know you stream a lot, and I know that you obviously are doing solo versus squads because stuff isn't just like, yeah. I mean, stuff right now in the meta isn't really super conducive for players that have played a lot, especially someone who's grinded and is like, like on the pro level. Like, do you ever just get tired of like, oh, like I have to do something to challenge myself, like? Or do you ever just do like, hey, like I'm gonna call up a buddy and we're just gonna like do meme games or something?
Usually on Realm, I still do enjoy solo squads. I think it's a lot of fun to just blow out a console squad. To me, I don't know why. I just think it's so funny and fun.
Yeah.
So I do have fun doing that on stream. Off stream, I will play games with friends and stuff and kind of just meme around, whether it's Overwatch or a card game or something. But usually when I play Realm, I do try and still get better, because my goal with Realm is, when tournaments come back, is to do really well in that tournament scene. So most of the time I spend doing Realm is, even if it does seem kind of memey, using Plasma Launcher and Ice Staff or doing solo squads, I still try and take something from it when I'm playing.
Plasma Launcher, so fun. Like,
yeah.
It's so fun. It's like one of my favorite weapons. Like, people are like, oh, well, like, what's Plasma Launcher in a game? I'm like, don't you touch my Plasma Launcher. I love that thing. Rarely do I use it.
Like yesterday, I was doing my best to find Ice Wall, Plasma Launcher, and Ice Staff, and just trying to get really good at walling myself up and then just doing weapon swaps above someone, kind of like a budget engineer, But now that I'm kind of decent at that, if that situation arises, like I'll be good at it,
Yeah, that's a great point.
I mean, it's like dodgeball. When you're playing, it's like beaming people in the face during dodgeball, like with Plasma Launcher, because the projectile's like this big, So
Yep.
I don't know, it's so fun. Anyway,
it is.
All right, cool. Let's move on. Again, if there's anyone in chat that wants to ask questions, feel free to jump in Discord. We got a couple more here, and then I feel like we're kind of getting towards the end. A couple more. What makes a good player, and how do we assess player skill? And maybe actually the one above that, what goals should players set for themselves to get better might be good. I mean, I know we talked a little bit about that, about like approaching it like don't try and win and that sort of stuff. Like, what if you've been playing the game a while, like say you're like an average Joe like Lee and I, you've spent 200 to 300 hours in the game, you play with your friends, some you do duos, whatever, you're trying to get to a level where you enter the RealmCom tournaments and like actually do well, do respectably. What kind of goal should you set for yourself?
Yeah, I think there's a good process for this. And to start off, be doing solos and do Q snipes against good players. If Gentle Giant is playing, or Raisin is playing, or Crippler is playing, try and Q snipe them. Don't stream snipe, but Q snipe them, turn off the stream, and try and get into a fight with them, right? If you are consistently able to overcome players that are quote-unquote the best, that's when you know you're doing well.
Yeah.
But you do have to be honest at the same time. Like, am I beating them simply because he had half HP and I had high ground? If you're actually getting good, legitimate one-on-one fights with somebody that's a good player, and you're consistently coming out on top, that's how you know you're doing well. Once you've done that, maybe start doing some solo duos to focus on positioning and how to angle people off and how to get better at landing your shots under pressure. From there, solo squads maybe, and kind of go on and on until you're really dominating every aspect of the game. And that's when you go into tournaments, right? It's a whole different game in tournaments, and you see how you perform there. And then that's your next goal. Participate in weekly tournaments and see how you keep performing and getting better.
So to your point, though, would you intentionally like not third party then? Like, I'm gonna let this
Oh,
person
yeah.
heal up because I want the best fight I can get right now.
Absolutely. And I will always, if I'm going to fight somebody and I really am trying to get better at 1v1s, I will let them heal up. I'm friends with a lot of the streamers, Crippler, Gentle Giant. So to me, I love killing them when they're half HP and dancing on them. I know I don't get better from that fight, but I love it because it makes them mad, right? But if you are really trying to get better, then absolutely you need to let them heal up. And so I don't know why, but some people take it as bad manners when you chicken someone and let them get up and fight again. But I think that's a legitimate thing. Like if you know you're fighting a good player, especially when there's bots in the game, like take the time to fight someone 3 times, drop some armor pots for them, and do the fight again. There's nothing wrong with doing that. Some people get tilted by it, but whatever.
I was gonna say sorry to Iodon then, because I've actually gotten mad at him for like chickening me and then letting me get back up, but he could have had the great intent. So Iodon, #1 stream sniper.
Yep.
Q sniper. Sorry, Q sniper. Q sniper. Sorry, Iodon.
Again, though, like that's like a mindset thing too. You know what I mean? Like that goes back to the proper mindset as a player. Like, don't get tilted by that stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like that can tilt me sometimes. Like just confession. Like that can tilt me if somebody that I'm like, oh man, I should have won that fight and I didn't. And then they chicken me and they let me back up. Like I understand the whole like that kind of feels BM sometimes, but if you're approaching it with the right mindset of like, I don't know. I think that it's good to be like approach like you're saying, just approach it with the mindset of, hey, I want to get a good fight in, and I know this buddy and he's good. So give equal respect to all players, but also understand that it's like just because someone's lighting you up as a chicken doesn't necessarily mean they're BMing.
Yeah,
Exactly.
That's a good point. And also have fun with it, as Mouse was saying, because I actually enjoy Q sniping with Iodon, and we let ourselves into a idiotMouse game, and I said, I heard a soar, let me see if I can snipe someone, and I ended up chickening him.
That was great. That shot was otherworldly, man. I was across the map.
So what I did was I just went to a stream the next day and I subbed because I was like, I need to support you anyway, and we were having fun playing with him. So I use it as an avenue to go, you know what? I get to give this guy some support anyway because I'm always there bugging him on his stream anyway. So yeah, support Realm streamers.
Yeah, definitely. That actually adds one other element to this too that I haven't really mentioned is if you're new to the game, like you're brand new, like hop into people's chat and talk with them and make friends. Like if you don't, or have your real life friends come try the game and share the game with other people. I've done both. I've made really good friends in this community as well as invited some real life friends to play. And it really helps and makes the game more fun, and you can learn from your other players' experience and learn to get better from playing with your friends because you guys are growing as players together. So that can be a pro tip too, is just try that out and see if that helps your game, because if you're like, by yourself, it's difficult to learn if you're not talking with people to be like, hey, you should try this. Like I learned this the other day and it's really good, so definitely do that.
Yep, absolutely.
All right.
Get the player base back.
Yeah, like share the game, then we don't have to deal with this bot crap. So anyway, well, do you guys have anything else you want to talk about? We're getting really close to the end. If anyone has any questions, now's your last chance to jump in and ask it. So any other thoughts?
Who is the easiest free shards for you in the pro scene, Mouse?
In the pro scene?
Oh man, that's
gosh,
like,
fire it shot like
question. I'm just messing.
Like a leading question. Be like, let's get him to BM somebody, for the clips.
For the do it for the content.
Yeah,
it's actually funny
Just
though.
kidding.
Like a lot of players nowadays that are actually performing very well in the competitive scene, the community tournaments, used to be free shards. I mean, the perfect example. Slaith and Galilean, like they used to be. I used to love fighting them because I would always kill them every time, and they were free shards when the game, was relatively new. But they just won the last community tournament, and now anytime I see them in game, I'm like, okay, I gotta actually.
Yeah.
We're 50-50 now, Like it's cool to see these players that used to be free shards, and now everyone's kind of getting a lot better. But those two just come to mind as guys that have gotten really well, really, really good, and they put the time in,
Yeah.
idiotMouse, a man of many talents, took my intentionally shady question and turned it into the perfect, like, how to get good, the light at the end of the tunnel answer.
Yeah.
I used to be in sales. Okay, I can just.
There you go, dude. Hats off to you, man.
I have one other question, and this is more for myself because I suck so much at this. How should people approach, like, let's say your goal is to win the game, okay? Like, you want to get wins, all right? So you're playing in a more, like, in an environment where you really just want to win. How do you handle a top 5 fight versus other fights? Like, is third partying always the best thing? Like, is hiding in a room okay? Like, how do you approach top 5 fights?
You know, again, you always want to be the third partier. There's no shame. If you're actually trying to win, there is no shame in third partying.
Yeah.
That's a battle royale, right? And
Yeah.
so to become the third partier, you need to plan ahead based on the zone where the prime position is going to be. If you're out in the desert, you probably want to be up on top of one of those hills, you know, behind outpost, because you have a good view of everything, you have high ground, and you have good cover. If maybe you're in Trinity, hide in the forge because you can deny other people the forge. It all depends upon the zone, and where that prime position is and getting there first.
Yeah.
I think it really comes down to that, putting yourself in a position where people can't come at you from two sides at the same time, and putting yourself in a position where you do have a backup plan to get away.
Yeah.
That's why I'm really enjoying Mage right now, because Soar is so strong. But one thing I learned from the very first 10K I played in, the team leader, his name was Rana. He was a PUBG pro as well, and he really expressed the power in forcing other people to fight, like baiting people to shoot at you from two sides, and then kind of disappearing, but leading them into each other, and then becoming the third party.
Yeah.
That was a tip that he showed me how to do it multiple times, like successfully in different angles to take it from, and kind of just being the fight initiator, but then kind of sinking back and making them fight, and being that villain and being the third party.
Yeah.
And that's been a really successful thing for me. And people always know I third party a lot, but that's because it's a successful strategy, right?
Yeah.
It's a useful strategy.
That's
Cool.
awesome.
Yeah.
You can use the bots to do that too.
Yep.
I love it when that happens, dude. That's the best. When a bot intervenes and saves your butt, it's the best.
Yep.
Cool.
I have one more question personally, just a selfish question.
Yeah.
Just to kind of round out getting good, because I'm still in my process of getting good. How do you get good when you're in patches like this, where you know there's someone with, like, let's say a legendary heal and a fire axe, or a guy
Such a
with
good
a
question.
legendary venom pistol?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it feels like you keep getting into these top, 3 situations, and you're trying to play your best. What are the ways to kind of, other than third party, because we just mentioned that, which is a great answer, by the way. You can let them fight. You don't have to feel bad doing that.
Yep.
How do you try to get good in these situations?
Yeah, that's especially why I'm playing Mage right now. It's being able to adapt your playstyle to what the meta is. And right now, to me, the strongest things are assassins with venom pistols and healing shout. And me switching to Mage allows me to, 1, get away when I need to. 2, I have proper burst to get over the healing shout. And 3, I have healing to, get around a corner and heal real quick. Specifically for the venom pistol, I think, aside from landing your shots, because you do need to land your shots when you're fighting someone with the venom pistol, is baiting out their bullets. So if you're maybe peeking on one side of a house and they're on the other side of the house, you don't necessarily have to peek out enough to shoot. You just put your foot out real quick and they shoot and go back, right? Bait out maybe 9 of their bullets and then push them, because then they only have 2 shots to actually hit you with, and then you can kind of light them up as they're reloading.
Interesting.
Against venom pistol, it's really about baiting their shots out. If it goes south, you need a way to get away, and then hitting your shots. Healing shout, if you know the last guy has the healing shout, if you see him in the kill feed with a fire axe and you see him across the map just ding, lighten up yellow, then you need to adjust your loadout for that. You need to maybe find a sniper and a stone staff, or a longbow and a crossbow, to really counteract that. And that goes back to that whole gathering information thing we were talking about, where you don't really want to stick to one loadout the whole game. You want to adapt to what's going on in the kill feed and sound cues and visual cues.
Awesome. And again, the reason why you should watch these guys like Mouse and some of even the guys in here like Arrow and Raisin is sometimes they'll actually often narrate what they're doing.
Yeah.
So I'll hear Mouse go, "Oh, I'm switching to this because of this," and I'll go, "Oh, I would have never thought of that." So you're actually learning while they're just playing the game.
Yeah.
They're not quite at Shroud level where you're just playing the game and everyone's just wishing he would read a comment or something. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Great.
Definitely.
Good tips, guys. Good question. Well, that's it. That's all I got. You guys got anything else you want to finish it off with?
I think that's it.
Wraps it up. Sick, man. Hey, thanks so much
Thank
for
you guys
coming
having
on.
me.
Yeah. Do you want to share and plug your where people can find you at, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube?
Yeah, I actually my plan was to launch a YouTube channel today. Unfortunately, my microphone that I had ordered to record audio was defective a couple days ago.
Oh,
So unable to put any videos up today, but they are coming this week.
Yeah.
I'll put the link to the YouTube in chat. Twitter.com/idiotMouse is probably where you can find everything that I post. But here's my
There's his
channel.
YouTube.
Oops.
Everyone click that link and go drop him a subscribe for when his video comes out. It'll be coming out this week, so make sure and do
That'll
that.
be coming this week, and then Twitter is where I put most of my updates and on Realm and patch notes and stuff like that.
whew.
Cool.
I'm a second subscriber.
Thank you. But yeah, really excited for the future. Really excited for this upcoming patch. Good couple of months with the game.
Nice. I'm excited too. Big things happening. So, Lee, what about you? Where can people find you?
ComTV Lee for everything. Yeah, I have Twitter as well, YouTube as well, and Twitch.
Mm-hmm.
I also have 2 children, so those have been very scattered in terms of uploads on YouTube. But yeah, you can often find me lurking in these 2 chats as well. So
Yeah, and you stream what on Mondays and Thursdays?
Mondays and Thursdays. Yep.
Okay. Yep. And you can find me on Twitch right here. If you like the content, drop a follow. Definitely go and follow all these guys as well. I'm on Twitter at @theMontyMole_. And then the Realm Roundtable, this podcast, we're going to start doing it probably once a month. It just depends on how much content we get from Hi-Rez. So what we may do in an extra episode this month, depending on patch and schedule and what other content is released. You know, we don't want to do a bunch of repeat content, but so we'll be talking with Lee about that, but we're hoping to do at least one a month for sure. And we actually now have a YouTube channel. Okay.
Yeah.
So we will be posting these VODs. I will have them on my own Twitch, but we also have a YouTube channel. I'm going to upload our first episode tonight. So if you missed that, go check that out. It'll be up here tomorrow on the channel tomorrow. I'm just going to link it here so you can subscribe for that. Otherwise, you can just hop in and ask Lee and I questions. We try and promote the podcast as much as possible on Twitter and on Reddit. So stay tuned for that, as well as Discord. So stay tuned for that, and we'll post updates in those locations. So, all right, guys. Well, thanks so much, everybody, for coming. I'm going to go ahead and officially just wrap it up right now, and stay tuned for the next episode when that comes out.